On this edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast, we continue our series of get-to-know, in-depth chats with Les McTavish of the Vauxhall Academy of Baseball. Welcome to episode 121 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. There aren't many hats Les McTavish hasn't worn in Southern Alberta baseball in recent years, from a young athlete to playing at Prairie Baseball Academy, over to Washington State University, to some time with the Oyen Pronghorns and Lethbridge Bulls before heading to the coaching ranks with the American Legion Lethbridge Elks, the PBA, Team Alberta, the Bulls, the Canadian Junior National Team, and now with the Vauxhall Academy of Baseball. He's also served with the Alberta Amateur Baseball Council and has been an area scout for the Seattle Mariners over the last few years. Clearly no shortage of things to talk about when it comes to his journey, but also about how the game has changed in the last 20 plus years here in this province, and about life coming full circle for him as he watches his kids play sports. Les, thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
My pleasure, Joe. Looking forward to it.
We've had a lot of fun getting to know some of the names around baseball here in Alberta over the last few episodes, which brings us to our conversation here. Let's go back to the very beginning, though. When you were growing up, was baseball always the dream?
Good question. No, I grew up in Central Alberta. I was raised in Stettler and moved from Stettler in the 10th grade up to Slave Lake, Alberta. I think like every young Canadian, hockey was a dream. My passion, though, growing up was probably hockey and golf. Baseball was probably a third option. And then, later into my high school years, all of a sudden the baseball world kind of opened up and I got better at it. So I think part of it, hockey's still a passion of mine. I do enjoy golf. I like to fish, but it's funny, would I have ever in my wildest dreams thought I'd be working full time in the baseball world for the last 20 plus years? No chance. And I'm very fortunate that I am, but certainly wasn't my dream growing up. And but I am fulfilling a dream now. So
when did that switch flick for you? When did you realize that, hey, this baseball thing might actually be something that you want to pursue, especially in the early days as being a player?
Well, growing up, I think I was always, it's hard to tell sometimes when you look back on your baseball career. I think I was always an okay player. I was primarily a catcher. So in the bantam world, I would have been a catcher. I never remember pitching at all until close to the 11th grade, close to the 11th grade, I think, is when I started pitching. And then Team Alberta kind of opened up and, I think I was an okay catcher. I could hit okay, but I always had a decent arm. And then when I got on the mound, I was tall and lanky and had a decent arm. And so was fortunate enough to have an opportunity with Team Alberta, and then things started to open up from there. So it was that 10th, 11th grade year where all of a sudden baseball became a reality. At the same time, I went to a couple junior hockey camps, one in Medicine Hat, one in Lloydminster, and so it was kind of a choice at that point in time. And I think I was just an okay hockey player, by no means a superstar, and I was fortunate to make the right decision and been able to spend a lifetime in the game of baseball.
And obviously, as you mentioned, you represented Alberta a few times. You headed to Prairie Baseball Academy as well for their first year. What stands out most for you in that experience?
Well, coming out of high school, I had some injuries my senior year, relating back actually to a hockey injury, and PBA was going to go into its first year. I had a couple options to go to a couple junior colleges in Kansas. And my dad actually encouraged me to do the Prairie Baseball Academy after having a conversation with head coach Blair Kupasek. At one point, I was thinking about possibly playing hockey at the University of Lethbridge all at the same time. So, I look back on the first year of PBA, and we didn't win a lot of games. There was a lot of good players that went through the program at that point in time. But I was fortunate. I went to the University of Lethbridge and was fortunate to be seen by Washington State and had a decent summer and got an opportunity to pitch in the Pac-10 for 4 years, which at the time, I didn't really realize how big a deal it was. And I look back, sometimes you wish you could do it all over again to really take it all in, but I have some great memories for sure.
When you do look back on that time with Washington State, what makes you kind of smile the most as you look back on those 4 years?
My friendships, we never won a College World Series. We never went to the College World Series, but friendships, and we encourage that a lot with Vauxhall right now. Is you go, baseball is going to come and go, but I met so many great lifelong friends. Very fortunate that some of them were my wedding party. I was in some of their wedding parties. But I had some great friendships. I remember a lot of the other sports. The baseball was awesome, and there's so many great stories on the baseball front. But I remember, the football games and, the Ryan Leafs and the Jason Gessers and some of these quarterbacks that went through, and, basketball and everything that encompasses being a student athlete. And I was fortunate to be part of that. But it's the friendships, and I think they're lifelong, and you may not see somebody or even talk to somebody for several years, and then when you reconnect, it's we use the same motto in Vauxhall, but we stole it from Washington State: once a Coug, always a Coug, and it's kind of how you feel with your friends that you develop there.
Was there ever a moment when you made that transition into college ball where you felt a little like a fish out of water almost because you are the Canadian, the token Canadian maybe on the staff or on the roster? Were they pretty welcoming right from the get?
No, they were super welcoming. We had some really good guys. We were really young. We had a big incoming class that year. I think it was 12 or 13 freshmen. So we were young. So we developed a really good relationship. And, you look back on it, and this is the mid 90s. I jumped in a car, drove down there all on my own, kind of figured out where I was supposed to go, and moved in.
Hmm?
Um, it's funny, my career, and it was by no means I was by no means a superstar collegiately, but early on, so my freshman year at Washington State, the fall, I don't know if I allowed to run the entire fall, but I didn't know any better. I just went out, pitched, and my job was to get everybody out. That spring, I was a freshman and was a starting opening week. I think game 2 or game 3 of my freshman year, I was a starter, and had a miserable start, and was actually under the weather a couple days before, and just had a miserable start. But I started to think about things and think, okay, I could do this, and this is where the level I was at. And instead, rewinding to the fall, I just would go out and pitch, and sometimes maybe that freshman year, spring, I certainly had some self-doubt. I think we all go through that, whether it's on the baseball field or in life or in business. I had some self-doubt. Hey, maybe I'm not good enough to be here, and maybe this isn't for me. And then my last outing was at the University of Washington, and I had a really good outing. I came in, and we were down a lot, and I got to come in the ball game and was able to give us several scoreless innings. And I started to believe, and then kind of carried over to the following year. So there was never times when I was worried about being a Canadian. I think sometimes I embraced that more than anything. They would rip me a lot, and they would, make a lot of jokes about it. But to me, it was never anything personal. They did it just to be part of a group.
How much of that past experience do you tap into as you coach at the high school level now with Vauxhall? How, especially when you talk about that self-doubt and that kind of thing, to maybe give those kids an opportunity to see, hey, you know what, you can get through this. This isn't, the end of the world if you're feeling a little down, that kind of thing.
No, we try to relate a lot to it. We're fortunate we have 3 full-time coaches, and Jim Kokas is our hitting coach, and Joel Blake's one of our coaches, and both had really good careers. They were completely different players than I was, so we utilize experiences that we have, and not telling stories about how good or how poor we did, but about things that we wish we might have did a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back on my career, and I think when I would just go out and pitch and worry about, see the sign, throw it, believe in it, and let it go, I was really good. But when I was so worried about who we were facing, and this guy's an All-American, and this team's number 3 in the nation, and is when I struggled. And instead of just going out and believing in yourself, and at the end of the day, as a pitcher in particular, when the ball leaves your fingertips, you just got to worry about fielding your position. There's nothing else you can do. And sometimes I was worried about the peripheral, I think, at times. And my career, my collegiate career kind of started down, went really high up, and then went down again. And so it was kind of up and down. And when I look back, it was probably more mental. It was never physical part of things that I felt like I struggled with. I think it was more the mental side that, um, I could have did a better job with, and I could have embraced and tried to learn from your other teammates. I had several teammates at Washington State that were extremely strong mentally, and I wish I would have looked back on it and tried to learn from them a little bit more.
Take us back to the days of the Saskatchewan Major Baseball League, the predecessor, of course, to the Western Major Baseball League, which is the predecessor to the Western Canadian Baseball League. But you were with Oyen and the Lethbridge Bulls. Tell us a little bit about that experience and what you took away from it.
Yeah. I was fortunate to play in Oyen and to play with the Lethbridge Bulls. We'll add one more name into that. I was able to play with the Coaldale Gophers, Gofor. So Oyen left Oyen and went to Coaldale on its way to Lethbridge when Pro Ball left. So there was a 1-year stop in Coaldale, and in that league, and then it went to Lethbridge. So I was pretty fortunate to be part of it. There's some great stories, and again, there was good friendships, and it was funny when I look back on that time. That was probably a defining moment in my career. I had some opportunities to go play summer baseball, both in I think Humboldt, California, and up in Alaska, and I got a pitching coach job with the Lethbridge Elks. So while I was playing college baseball, I was the pitching coach for the American Legion team, and also pitching with the Lethbridge Bulls. So I would pitch on Wednesday nights for the Bulls and coach baseball the other days and make sure I stayed in shape until the following Wednesday night. So there's but that was probably a defining moment in my life where I developed a passion for, during those times with the SMBL, is where I developed a passion for coaching. And then fast forward, I was super young and the head coach of the Bulls right in behind that. So.
Did you know that you wanted to get into coaching at some point, or was that something that was almost accidentally stumbled upon and fell in love with?
I think it was probably accidental. I think you always have mentors in your life, and I was very fortunate to have several mentors that I learned from, and they gave me a good experience. It started with Scott Oyakawa and Jim Kokas with the Lethbridge Elks. I was 19 years old. I didn't know them from Adam. I didn't know them at all. I drove over from Washington State, met them in Great Falls, started coaching baseball, and I developed a passion. But they gave me a really good initial experience. And then right in behind that was Blair Kubasek and Todd Hupka with the PBA. And then following that up was Greg Hamilton with Team Canada. So I was really fortunate to have 3 or 4 great coaching mentors. And I think if I was going to give any advice to any young aspiring coach, is to find a mentor and lean on that mentor, try to learn from that mentor, spend as much time with that mentor, pick the brain of that mentor as much as you can, because I think that's an important piece. And I think sometimes we forget about it. We're always so excited and such in a hurry to be successful and do great things that we forget that there is a process to it. And I hope I'm a better coach today in my mid-40s than I was when I was 23 years old or 19 years old. I continue to hope that I and aspire to be better every year.
When you look back at this last 20 years worth of coaching, what's been the most gratifying aspect of that job?
When I look back at coaching, it's just the relationships you build with people and players. That's what I'm missing most right now. And sure, it's great to go to Las Vegas and to play at UNLV and to play in Missoula, but it's the relationships you build with other coaches, with other players, and then most importantly with your current players. And it's very rarely do I want to tell a story about a former Vauxhall player, a Bulls player, or a Team Canada player that's only about the baseball field. It's about something off the field, or it's some type of relationship that you built. And that's what I cherish the most is the relationships you build with players and kids. And hopefully you're able to give them a few things that they can look back on in their career and go back to it to be able to help them out of a tough time. We've all been through it, and these 12th graders right now, they've never been in a hotel together as a team. Yes, we live in a dorm together with Vauxhall, but they've never even been in a hotel. So that's what I want to do this year more than anything, is just be able to get to a hotel and go on a road trip with somebody and allow these kids to be and bond together. Yes, they live in a dorm, but just to be able to get out and build some of those memories and relationships, I guess, is a big piece of it.
Take us back to 2006. You become head coach, director of baseball operations for the Vauxhall Academy of Baseball. Walk us through how that even came to be, how you ended up in Vauxhall.
Well, at the time, I was working for the Alberta Amateur Baseball Council. I was the operations manager. I was coaching Team Canada, and I just finished coaching the Lethbridge Bulls. And they called me, their original founding fathers of Vauxhall, to help look at the template that they were building. And at one point, I was going to maybe sit on the selection committee to help hire a coach. And when I started looking at it, I thought, wow, this could be a cool opportunity to build a college baseball environment at the high school level, at the structure that we want at the high school level, and build a program. And we were really fortunate. We had a lot of great people early on. So I guess rewind, I decided to put my name in and was fortunate to be interviewed. And I believe there was 40 or 50 applicants because it was a unique venture. And so when they did hire me, we built a template. We had a ton of great people, and the majority are still involved today, right from our president to our vice president. And we had good people around, and I think, as any leader would say, you're only as good as your two-hole. And Jim Kokas was our assistant coach and our two-hole coach, and he still is today. And we've had a ton of continuity and a ton of traditions built over the years, but we've had a lot of people that are still involved today that were involved in 2006. And I think that's the key to success with organizations, is to continue to build consistency year to year. And 2006, there's lots changed. I can tell you that much. And but I'll always cherish the 21. We had 21 players that year. The players that did decide to take the leap of faith to move to a small town in Southern Alberta to become a part of a baseball academy. And we look at what's happened today. There's baseball academies all over the globe. And I think, and I hope we were part of that transition a long time ago.
What's it been like from your perspective to see the growth of the Vauxhall program through your eyes?
It's gratifying. It's humbling. You're honored to be part of it. Certainly I feel, that I've had a piece of that puzzle, but, like we say to our players all the time when they come to Vauxhall, our job is to keep you on the rails. We'll keep you between the lines. Your job is to drive the vehicle, maintain the vehicle, and you owe everything to the players. Ultimately they're the key. If you don't get the right players, the right students, the right human beings, that's the key to the program. And, it's easier said than done at times, but sometimes you might not win a few games and you might not have the best player that is in the program. But if you get the right person, that's the key. And we've been very fortunate that we've had a ton of great people in our program, and some that are now doctors or lawyers or professional athletes or teachers or own their own business. And those are the people that you really enjoy getting to know and really seeing where, people are dads now. So it's a lot of fun.
You've been doing a really good job of segueing into my next questions as I go through it in my head. And the next question I wanted to ask was about that aspect of things is, most of these guys aren't going to end up in the pros, or they may get a good college career under their belts kind of thing. But afterwards, it's got to be really interesting to see the wide array of places that some of these players have ended up going towards.
I think it's incredible. I remember Kubi, Blair Kubasek with PBA talking about that in the past. And when we honored him at PBA last year, that's what he talked about the most. And, it's it's a ton of fun just seeing where paths take kids. And you might think somebody's going to be a professional superstar, and maybe it takes a different path, or they get hurt, or they weren't a great student at Vauxhall and now they're a lawyer, or they own their own business and extremely successful. It's a ton of fun to watch, and now I've been fortunate. I have my own son that's going through it, and going to graduate. And so it kind of comes full circle, but it is humbling. And, that's got to be the most gratifying thing as a coach, is to watch young men, or ladies in whatever sport it may be, fulfill a dream, and to see where they end up, and hopefully they can draw back on some of the things that we've taught them with their time at Vauxhall, that they can draw back and utilize it to help them through.
When you look back on when you were a player, for example, and you look at the scene here in Alberta now, how would you assess the difference in the talent that we have here? How would you grade maybe the talent that we have here today?
It's really, really good. The players in general are just better, but they've also been trained harder. They're bigger, they're stronger, they throw harder, they hit the ball farther. I think the athletes were always there 20 some years ago, but the players in today's day and age are so much more advanced. And I actually thought about this the other day. I wonder if I even would have recruited myself to go to Vauxhall Baseball Academy in 1995 or 1993, when I think I would have. I hope I would have. But you sometimes wonder, that'd be a good question to ask all the academy coaches. Would you have recruited yourself in high school? I don't know if I was good enough. Maybe I wasn't good enough at the time. I don't know. But yeah, it's funny. It's incredible how. But they work so hard at it. It doesn't matter what program you are, if you're in Okotoks or Badlands or in Edmonton or Calgary or Vauxhall. These kids work extremely hard at their craft. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster than they've ever been. And, there's maybe more injuries because of that as well. But it's crazy. Even just since 2006 when we started, I remember vividly the first day a Vauxhall Academy player ever hit 85. And I remember the first time a player ever hit 90. Well, now 90 is like there's lots of guys that hit 90 in all the programs. It's crazy. If you threw above 80 in high school in 2006, you threw really hard. Really hard. And now you got to be, north of 90. So, but at the end of the day, velocity is not everything. You still got to get people out. Mm-hmm. And, and the unfortunate part in the COVID times that we're in right now, everything's about indoor training. There's nothing about competing in a game. So sometimes we're too worried about how hard we threw in the bullpen, because if we would have thrown 88 in the bullpen, we're super happy. But if we were outside and we threw 85 and we threw 5 scoreless innings, we'd probably be even more high. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes, it's a double-edged sword at times.
Mm-hmm. How much of the success that we see today is based off of success breeding success? And by that, I mean, you start to see some of these guys who maybe get a taste of pro ball or have a really successful college career come back. In your case, I look at a guy like Josh Bergman who comes back and trains with you or offers a few nuggets to some of the younger guys, and they all of a sudden see that there is a path and it is worth putting in the work.
100%. I think success breeds success, and I think the kids that are most successful at Vauxhall are the kids that are extremely competitive. So you're going to have, like, Bergie's back right now. He's great. He spends time, energy with pitchers, with position players, even with coaches. We learn things from Josh or from Adam Macko, or I wish we could have Ben Anishko, who's still playing. He's a name that a lot of people forget about, mm-hmm. and pitching with the Mariners. But they offer a ton. But we also forget of how much success breeds success with players that are currently, and I think you could ask any academy in Alberta or in Canada for that matter, it's the veteran leadership that's the key to moving forward with the younger guys, and they follow suit. And again, like you say, success breeds success, and that's not just on the baseball field. That's in the weight room. that's in the classroom, that's socially. Because we all have mentors, and just like I say, I had mentors on the coaching front, we all have mentors off the field too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big piece, and how to go about your study habits. And okay, mom and dad aren't here to say, hey, can you get up and make sure you study and make sure you make your bed or make sure you do your chore or whatever it is. It's success breeding success, meaning a veteran helping a younger guy teach them what's expected and what's needed to be a big time student athlete, because there's lots more than goes into it than the baseball. It's easy to derail yourself off the field. Let's put it that way.
You mentioned earlier your kids, and they're having their own successes as well. Brendan's played the game. We also had news recently about Shay committing to you, Mary. What's that experience been like, as you mentioned, kind of going full circle and now seeing them blazing their own paths?
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I've been fortunate. Right from the get-go, I coached them through summer ball, so we were able to, both with Brendan and Shay, we were able to go to several national championships, and we'd lose, it seems like, every year to BC in the semifinal to go to a World Series somewhere. But it started at a young age, and then it's I think Shay waited his entire life. He was born in 2003. So every single May long weekend, for instance, or every single banquet since the inception of our program, he's been there. And he waited his entire life, and fortunate he was good enough to be part of the program, and now he lives and he's part of the program, and I just hope he can get on a road trip and really fulfill. He hasn't been able to do any of that since he's been part of it, but yeah, both Kim and I are honored that Shay has accepted a scholarship athletically and academically to go to the University of Mary, and I know he's super excited. He's going with a good friend and a teammate, Caleb Haney, and then Brennan's on our practice squad as a 10th grader right now, and he's got a decent shot to make the main team next year. And it's exciting. It's kind of scary in the sense too how quickly it goes. That kind of 12-year-old, and all of a sudden they're in high school and graduating, and it happens super quick. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm proud of both my boys, and I'm proud of my daughter, who's a good little athlete, and played some baseball, and hopefully goes on to play some school sports whenever they can. And yeah, it's been a ton of fun, and like I say, Shay will go young. He'll be 17 in college next year, so he'll be young in comparison to the majority of American kids, but I think he can handle it, and I think he's ready, both baseball wise and off the field, to tackle what's ahead of him in the collegiate world.
I was going to ask about your daughter as well. Has Taya got a bit of a baseball streak in her as well?
She did. She played for 2 years, maybe 3 years. She enjoyed it. There isn't a ton of girls playing baseball in Lethbridge, so I don't. If more of her friends were to play it, she liked the social part, which we all do it. When we're young, the social part's a big part of it. And she was pretty decent at it, so maybe she'll get into softball here, which isn't huge in Lethbridge either. So maybe, it'll be interesting to see where she shakes out. She does enjoy volleyball. She's a good athlete. She likes to play basketball. She likes to run. So she's a 6th grader right now. She just started middle school. So hopefully next year, if we're able to, hopefully she's able to really dive in feet first into school sports, and it'll be a new path. Maybe I'll be a volleyball dad or a baseball or a basketball dad or whatever it is. So
your game anyway.
My game, yeah. I'm in for it. So it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to following whatever she decides to do, athletics or not. I hope she decides to play sports at a good level, and because I do think it can help define you, and it teaches you a ton of life skills, and long after whether it's on the court or on the field or on the ice.
How important is that side of it, whether it's your kids, whether it's the guys that you have at the academy, to kind of stress that you got to do what you love? I mean, obviously you've been doing it now for 20 plus years. How integral is it that you come to work, whether it be at the baseball field or, as you mentioned, the law office or whatever the case may be, and have that gut, like, yeah, we're going to tackle the day kind of mindset?
I think it's really important, and I think everybody would be lying right now if we didn't say we're questioning things right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be a baseball coach right now. It's hard to be a student right now. It's hard to go to work every day with what we're all dealing with. And I was reading something interesting recently, and I believe it was John Gordon that talked about all the negative thoughts that just naturally creep into your head. And it's important to try to look at the positives. And it's easy not to right now. It's easy to look at all the negatives, but it's something that I'm trying to remind myself every day. In a normal year, today for 15 straight years, the Tuesday after the February break, which is reading week in Southern Alberta, we would have our MLB camp. We'd have a bunch of scouts in. They'd come to Vauxhall, then they'd go up to Okotoks. Mm-hmm. And we did that for 15 years. Well, this is the first year in 15 years we haven't had it today. So it's easy to be frustrated. It's easy to be frustrated that we're not looking forward to going to Vegas and Kamloops and Missoula. But I think we just got to take it one day at a time. And you still got to be fortunate that we're healthy and that we're able to do things we do love. And baseball is a great game. And at some point in time, we're all going to have the ability to get back to normalcy as much as that is, and whatever that's going to be. But it is important to do things you love, and it is important to be reminded of that. And I'll tell you what I'm starting to do more and more, especially with my own kids. And I got to remind myself to do this more. You got to smile more. Mm-hmm. And smiling helps. And a lot of times I don't smile nearly enough, but I think it helps. And I think we all need it right now too.
Absolutely. Final question for you, and I have a feeling this one might make you smile as well. What does the game of baseball mean to you?
It does make me smile. The game of baseball is my life. Outside of my family is baseball. My wife loves it. My daughter loves it. My boys love it. My parents love it. My brother loves it. Baseball is the McTavish family, and it's helped me travel the world. It's helped my kids travel the world, and my wife travel the world, and it's something that is a huge part of our family, and I hope it is for my entire life. So it's something that it brings joy to my voice every day, and makes me want to get up and go to work and hopefully help 22 student athletes fulfill their dream, and hopefully, and most importantly, hopefully we provide them some direction to figure out what they love in life. And baseball is something I love dearly, and it's given me a lot. Hopefully I'm able to give a lot back to it.
Les, love the laughs, love the insight. Thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Thanks, Joe. Take care, and hopefully we see you around the ballpark sooner than later.
Thanks again to Les McTavish for joining us this week, and thanks as always to all of you for downloading and listening. A special shout out to Ian Wilson, who's been busy writing stories for the website, including one about Negro Leagues legend John Donaldson and his connection to Western Canada, as well as another about Hank Aaron and a few other big names visiting the community of Barrhead. You'll have to read all about those stories at albertadugoutstories.com. That'll do it for this edition of the podcast. Until next time, thanks for all of your support, no matter the platform of Alberta Dugout Stories.